So let's go to the brass tacks now. So Madhu, I want to kind of start with you, right? So at least as an investor, and I would say post Chat GPT, I've been hearing this phrase is SaaS dead, right? And of course, I've put this question to a lot of my podcast guests. In fact, I remember we recorded a podcast episode with Rajan Opekha, which is kind of
Mm.
one of the top US India corridor accelerators. Um, but I want to hear from you guys because you actually spend a lot of time with large corporate, large strategic players, corp dev departments, right? It's a very different category of stakeholders. What do you think about this phrase? Is SaaS really dead? And what's this transition that we are in right now? What are these large companies thinking about it?
Personally, I am never a fan of absolute statements, right? Because they don't encompass the kind of the nuances and the gray that dominate the world. So if you look at SaaS as um, the kind of the environment where a software company presents a point solution that can be solving a single problem really well, then yes, that version of SaaS is dead. And arguably that was never really the truth. Even before the expansion of AI, tools start off as point solutions, then they become platforms, and then they scale. So SaaS is dead is a bit of a sensational statement, as I'm sure Sumitra, you kind of think about, and all the folks listening here think about as well. In the context of AI, the way I'd like to think about it is static lines of code uh, that have been static so far are now evolving into a dynamic, sort of increasingly agency-driven, sentient AI agents. So a piece of software traditionally did one thing, now it can learn to do many things. And that's a pretty profound reality to embrace if you're a company that's selling a B2B or B2C software. That, wait, I can now write a piece of code that can grow to learn to do other things. I have to rethink everything, right? So from that perspective, it requires a very broad, very deep shift in the founder's mind to say, my product definition needs to change, how I innovate needs to change, my pricing model needs to change. So it's more of an evolution rather than this concept of, this particular entire way of building software is dead. So that's sort of my theme, and I'm sure over the course of our conversation we'll get into the details. But the my 2 cents to this point of SaaS is dead is it's evolving, it's expanding, and it is a exciting, probably slightly terrifying, but mostly exciting time for every entrepreneur, every team to think, how do I incorporate this idea of AI powered uh, software to into my company. So
Yeah.
that's my sort of quick reaction here.
And I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, people who want to be that provocative, maybe they're attention grabbers and they just want to be able to say the next statement beyond the SaaS is dead. It's evolutionary. Things are changing. A lot of people don't necessarily know even at what pace, because every time we say by X year, we're going to have generative AI, and then it's like a year earlier and a year earlier. So things are changing and SaaS is changing, and it should. And we're here for it.
In my head, I always kind of frame it as it's almost like a continuum, right? And I always go back to there's a secular, almost like multi-decade movement of, I think what Mike Andreessen called software is eating the world. I think it just continues to
Mhm.
eat the world. To me, I think, and especially from the context of the US India corridor, it actually started from the IT services wave
That's
that
right.
happened in the 90s, right? And then Y2K happened. And then, slowly as the internet came about, software products, so services became products. And then as cloud happened, products became SaaS. I remember when I was in venture, right? We used to call it software products in 2011, 12,
Mhm.
13, that time frame. And then 14 onwards, it actually eventually like slowly the word SaaS crept into things, and because of cloud and it's kind of cost going down and the ubiquity of cloud infrastructure. And now to me this almost seems like a next chapter. It's like another step up, right, with AI coming in, and with so it's still you're still building, and especially on the enterprise side you're still building an enterprise software company. It's just that
Mhm.
the technology that is there at your disposal, and then of course with implications on pricing and business models, and then you can kind of peel the onion on every aspect of the business, it just keeps evolving. So I completely agree that it's actually an evolution.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll call out that's probably also distinct, and your point about implications, Sumitra, made me think about this. And Hans touched on the pace of change. That's probably the most profound shock that everybody needs to truly understand at a tactical operational level, right? The pace of change is so profound that whatever period you think you had historically over the last 5 years, 10 years to adapt to something just is kind of sort of gone out the window, in the sense that you now have to think about evolving, a little bit faster. And that little bit is a loaded phrase, because you see how quickly LLMs are evolving. Mercury is the industry's first diffusion-based LLM versus auto-regression-based LLM. So the pace at which it's able to generate code, their first product is Mercury, which is a code editor, is insane. And so diffusion was primarily used for images and for video. Now it's coming for text, right? And it's the same day 4.5 was launched. Last week, 3.7 Sonnet was launched. So you can, and then Hume AI launched their text to speech. And I'm sitting here going, if I'm a founder, or if I'm a CTO, if I'm a head of product, how do I keep pace with this, right? SaaS is dead really means the time period you have to truly comfortably respond to change is dead. Now you have to go much faster.